Welcome to Conflict News 24. Continuing our coverage of Russia-Ukraine conflict, we have several news stories for you. First news story is about Putin's visit of Belarus. Russian President Putin has arrived in Belarus. He is accompanied by a foreign minister and defense minister and other top officials. What are the objectives of this visit? What does Russia want from Belarus? Is Russia planning a major military offensive on Ukraine from Belarus? Or does Russia have other plans, details for you? Secondly, this morning, Kiev, Ukrainian capital, was attacked by Russian kamikaze drones. Ukraine has confirmed that around 18 kamikaze drones hit Kiev in multiple locations. And thirdly, was Bakhmut front, where urban combat is underway in eastern part of Bakhmut, and industrial area of Bakhmut has come under Russian control. To the south of Bakhmut as well, a town which was being targeted by Russians has come under Russian control. Details for you. Firstly, viewers, Belarus, which shares border with both Russia and Ukraine, has been a Russian ally since the start of this war. We have seen that. Belarus supported Russia because when this war broke out in February this year, from Belarus, Russian military entered Ukraine. And Russian military tried to advance towards Kiev, Ukrainian capital. So Belarusian soil was used by Russian troops in February. Later we know that Russians had to withdraw from near Kiev. Belarusian soldiers have not been part of Russian military campaign in Ukraine. Now, Putin, Russian president, has arrived in Belarus. Putin is accompanied by a top-level delegation. Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister, is there in Minsk. Sergei Shoigu, defense minister, is accompanying Putin and other top Russian officials. What is the purpose of this visit? What does Russia want from Belarus? What does Putin want from Alexander Lukashenko? Firstly, keeping in view the weather conditions, an offensive from Belarus on Ukraine towards Kyiv is highly unlikely. It's not very likely that in coming days, Russian and Belarusian forces could attack Ukraine from the north. It's not likely. Then what does Putin want from Lukashenko? I think Russia is looking for some sort of military support from Lukashenko. Russia is hoping for military support in terms of personnel, soldiers, and in terms of military equipment. We know that Russia has been firing hundreds of missiles, rockets, artillery rounds on daily basis on Ukrainian territories. Russian stockpile of weapons is depleting. Russia is in need of more weapons, more ammunition. That is why it purchased some missiles from Iran too. And it wants to keep its stockpile filled. That is why Putin has arrived in Minsk. Putin wants support from Minsk in terms of personnel and ammunition, arms. How far will Lukashenko go in supporting Moscow? That remains to be seen. This is Putin's first visit of Belarus in 3 years. At a very strategic location is Belarus. And at a very critical time, Putin is in Minsk because there is obviously a stalemate between Russia and Ukraine. Russians had to withdraw from large territories in Kharkiv, in some parts of northern Donetsk recently. Before that, they had to withdraw from near Kiev. Ukrainians, they retook Kherson a few weeks ago. But overall, there is a stalemate. Russia could be planning something out of the box, and it needs the support of Lukashenko for its new strategy, for a long war. I don't think that Russia would be planning a blitzkrieg now. It cannot launch a sudden military offensive on Kiev. It is preparing for a long war, a sustained military campaign, and that is why it wants support from Belarus. How far will Lukashenko go in support of Russia? That remains to be seen. Secondly, viewers, this morning, Monday morning, Kiev was hit by Russian kamikaze drones. Russia is using its kamikaze self-exploding suicide drones frequently against Ukrainian targets, Ukrainian military targets. Energy infrastructure have been hit by these kamikaze drones, though Ukraine claims that it has shot down hundreds of these drones, but these drones are hurting Ukrainian forces. Reportedly, 23 kamikaze drones hit different targets in Kiev and around Kiev on Monday morning, around 5 a.m. local time. Ukrainian forces claim they shot down 18 of these 23 kamikaze drones, though this claim seems to be very exaggerated. Kamikaze drones are difficult to be, to shoot them down is difficult. But Ukraine claims that it shot down 18 of these 23 drones. And civilian energy infrastructure is again the target of these drones. Military installations as well were hit, and some electricity infrastructure was hit too in Kyiv. So Russian campaign to paralyze Ukraine in terms of hitting Ukraine's energy infrastructure continues. Thirdly, viewers, Bakhmut front, where gradually Russians are trying to enter Bakhmut. They have entered Bakhmut, by the way, from eastern side. It has been confirmed. Some videos are being shared by some pro-Russia news sources showing presence of Russian military in eastern part of Bakhmut. Industrial area of Bakhmut has come under Russian control. The industrial area is in eastern part of Bakhmut. So Russians have entered Bakhmut. You can say they're in control of around 10 to 20% of Bakhmut. And that 10 to 20% includes Bakhmut's industrial area. From eastern side and from southern side, Russians are trying to enter Bakhmut. Mainly they're entering from eastern side. But from southern side, they are trying to get close to the city. They have taken around 80% of Opytne, situated to the south of Bakhmut. Earlier, they bypassed Opytne, and bypassing Opytne, they tried to get close to Bakhmut. But they have now entered Opytne as well, and around 80% of Opytne is under Russian control. Ukrainians are claiming that they have driven Russians out of eastern part of Bakhmut, but it needs verification because pictures, videos show that Russian forces are in eastern part of Bakhmut, though large part of Bakhmut is still under Ukrainian control, but gradually Russians are making gains, though gains are small. Speed is very slow, but they are not withdrawing from this front. Russians, they want to capture Bakhmut to continue their campaign towards Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. So far, eastern part of Bakhmut, industrial area, seems to have come under Russian control, and Opytne as well. Around 80-70% of Opytne is under Russian control. Thank you for watching.